Hey everybody, welcome to the newest episode of the Movie Monologue Talk Show. Now, you might be wondering, the newest episode of the Movie Monologue Talk Show, this is the first one. Actually, this show was called Franchise Topics, and now I've changed the name. It's now called the Movie Monologue Talk Show. The premise is still the same, however, that I will be focusing on a certain aspect of a film and talking about that film. So here we go. Let's start right now. Episode 2, go! So this episode, I'm going to be focusing on Marvel films. Since AntMan has recently come out, I'm going to be ranking every single Marvel film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from The Incredible Hulk to AntMan. And before I get started on this list, spoiler alert, I will be spoiling these films because I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the films in my ranking, and that's how it's going to go. So here we go. Let's start with number 12. So number 12, The Incredible Hulk. Now, to be fair, in all of these films, I actually do enjoy all of these films. Not any of these films are bad films necessarily, but this film, out of all of them, it's not that good compared to the others. There's some boring moments, the pacing's a bit off, and it's hardly connected with any of the other movies at all. The only connection is that Edward Norton's Bruce Banner is Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner. I forgot his name. Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner. It's the same person. None of that Eric Bana Hulk stuff. That's not in the movies. But that's pretty much the only thing that's in this film that comes out in the other films as well. You know, the other films, they're all connected. There's a lot of aspects of each individual story that shows up in the other films. But The Incredible Hulk really doesn't have anything. Now, that being said, I did read something that the general bad guy in The Incredible Hulk will be appearing in Civil War. Don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, then, you know, finally they're doing something with The Incredible Hulk. And honestly, you don't even really need to watch The Incredible Hulk. I didn't watch it till after seeing a couple of the other Marvel films, and honestly, it didn't really add anything to it. So, you know, if you haven't seen it, and you really don't care for it, then, you know, maybe you could skip it. I mean, but if you're a devoted fan and you haven't seen it yet, then, you know, you could go see it. But there's a lot of stuff that they try and set up, and it just doesn't pay off. But the Abomination versus the Incredible Hulk at the end, that fight scene is really cool, actually. And I actually like Edward Norton's portrayal of Bruce Banner. I like Mark Ruffalo's better, but Edward Norton did a good job. So there, that's the Incredible Hulk, number 12, top of the list. Number 11 is Thor, The Dark World. Now, I actually liked this film the first time I saw it, and the more I watch it, the more I don't really like it as much as I would hope. First off, the side characters don't really get a lot of screen time. I mean, they're not really important in the film. Natalie Portman is important, but her friends, the scientists, they really don't do much to the film. There's a lot of familiar jokes, which were really, really funny in the first Thor, but at this second one, they kind of do the same stuff over again, and it's just not as funny when you've already heard it. And the risk of this film is set so high without the Avengers showing up to stop this. I mean, it's literally not just the fate of the Earth, but like 7 other different realms are like at risk of being shrouded in darkness, and I don't know how bad that is, if that would be bad, but I think it's pretty bad if this guy's doing it and Thor wants to stop him. And to have these worlds at risk and not include the Avengers in it, kind of doesn't make sense, and that's a problem I kind of have with some of the Marvel films after the Avengers. When the risks are set too high and the Avengers don't show up, it's kind of confusing, but, you know, you just gotta have to let it slide sometimes. But this one was just too much, Also, the biggest complaint I have with Thor: The Dark World, and a complaint I have with a lot of Marvel films, if you saw my Ant-Man review, that was a big problem with it too. The villains suck. This villain was probably the worst, well, no, second worst villain in all of Marvel, because there's no motive. I don't really care. He's not that interesting of a character at all. I don't care for his story or any of that. It's just really, really boring, and I don't care at all. And it's, you know, that's unfortunate. I would like to care about the villain. But there is one villain in this movie that I actually do really like, and that's Loki. Loki was a standout in this film. I did read that they added Loki more into the film, which is a big plus for me because every scene he was in was easily the best parts of the movie, and he was a standout. Chris Hemsworth still does a great job at being Thor, but that's Thor: The Dark World. Number 10 is Iron Man 2. Iron Man's my favorite character right now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe until they introduce Spider-Man, because he will obviously be my favorite. Yeah, this film just wasn't that great to me personally. The tone's all over the place. Sometimes it feels like it's directed for kids. Sometimes it feels like it's directed for adults because of the humor. But the tone just bounces up and down, up and down. And this was the number one worst villain of all of Marvel, which is Whiplash. His motive is an act of revenge, and I really do like revenge stuff. I like revenge arcs. They're pretty cool. But this one was just lacking anything. I don't really care about this guy either, or at all. Or I'm not interested at him at all. And the action in this film throughout is just bleh, just boring. It doesn't really, it doesn't interest me at all. It's not creative, really, at all. But this film does have Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and he is Tony Stark, and all of his stuff is still really funny. And Sam Rockwell as Hammer. He's also really funny. Sam Rockwell is almost perfect in every role he's in. And this was another one. Up next, number 9, we have Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, this film I actually do really like, but we're kind of getting to the point where I have to be nitpicky. So, the side characters in this film were underused, besides Agent Carter, because Agent Carter is fantastic. If you haven't seen Agent Carter, go see that TV show. It's fantastic. Can't wait for season 2. But the other characters, his friends, even Bucky, isn't really used as much as I would have liked. I would have liked more screen time with them. And I'm not really a fan of Captain America at first, when he's portrayed in this film, where he's the really goody two-shoes, all the rules kind of guy. As his character goes on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I actually like him a lot more. He's pretty, he's up there as being one of the best characters in the MCU. Yeah, Chris Evans as Captain America, he does a great job portraying this character. Agent Carter, like I said, is awesome. And even Howard Stark is really, really cool. And they were the best parts of the film. And I also really like the Hydra mythology. And as it expands in the MCU, it's really cool. But I do like the groundwork that they set in this film. Now, up next, we have Iron Man 3 on the number 8 spot. My complaints for this film is the villain again. What's his name? Guy Pearce as the main bad guy. Spoiler alert, it's not Ben Kingsley. It's Guy Pearce as scientist guy, who has lava skin. I don't know, but it just, meh. He was just, cliche, I'm a bad guy because money. No. And they try and set up the Mandarin, and here's the big twist of Iron Man 3. They say Ben Kingsley is the Mandarin, and the Mandarin is like the biggest Iron Man villain ever. Yeah, it turns out Ben Kingsley's an actor, and he's portraying the Mandarin, and Guy Pearce is having him be like the decoy guy, and hired him as an actor to portray this made-up person who actually turns out to be real. Now, I didn't care about this twist that bad when I first saw it, because I didn't really understand it. I thought it was kind of funny. But as I did more research on who the Mandarin was, I can understand why people hate it, and the more I watch this movie, the more I don't really like the twist so much. But I can look past it because I'm not that devoted to the Mandarin as of right now. But I do like the tone of this movie. It's a little bit darker and closer to the first Iron Man than the second Iron Man. It does have some really cool action with all the Iron Man suits flying around at the end. It's all really cool. And, this film, it's pretty solid besides the villain aspects, but that happens a lot in Marvel. Up next, number 7, we have Thor. Now, this was the first hurdle that Marvel had to overcome, in my opinion. Obviously, you have to set the groundwork, and that's probably the first hurdle, but this is probably the biggest one before the Avengers, because, who really would want a Thor movie before we saw Thor and saw what we could do? But this film proved that Marvel knows what they're doing, and they can take this character and make an interesting film out of it. Like I said before when I talked about Thor: The Dark World and the familiar humor, in this movie it actually works way better. And it was really funny the first time we saw this, and repeated viewings, it's still pretty funny and really smart. And it was cool to connect the two realities, because before we've just been on Earth, but now we're on Asgard, and the two interconnecting is really cool to watch in this film. The side characters are also pretty entertaining. Thor's friends, I would have liked them to be a bit more in this film. Even in the second film, they weren't used that much. But maybe in the third one, Thor Ragnarok. And we also got introduced to Loki, who's arguably the best villain in the MCU. In my opinion, he's the best. He just has this great charisma. He's got this great backstory, and to see him turn from Thor's good brother to Thor's bad brother, and turn from good to evil, it's really cool to see in this film. And yeah, I really, really like this film, even though there's not a lot of action. Maybe they could have added a little more, but still, the story in this one is just awesome. Number 6, we have Ant-Man. I really like this film. If you want an in-depth look into this film of my review, you can go check Ant-Man. Link for the Ant-Man review in the description below. The hero is just charming. I really like Paul Rudd, and he did a great job in this film. The whole cast was really, really well done. The humor, it was hilarious. It's really funny. Paul Rudd is hilarious. Even Michael Douglas had some great lines in there. The action was beautiful to watch. It was really entertaining and so much fun. So much fun. But again, the villain, he sucked. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much the cliche financial bad guy, and he makes stuff to sell stuff for money because he's bad. I wish they would have gone deeper into his backstory, and so we could relate to him, or try and sympathize with him at first, and then watch him spiral down into bad guy villain cliche. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. But still, this film's really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. All right, we have the top 5 Marvel films in the MCU, in my opinion, and number 5, Iron Man. I love Iron Man. This was the first building block in the MCU, Incredible Hulk, but this set the entire MCU in motion, in my opinion. And Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark in his comeback role, he's so good in this film. I mean, he's Tony Stark, and I said this already, but he is Tony Stark. I mean, really, honestly, he plays this role so well, so entertaining. There's a reason why he's the most highest paid actor in the business right now. And it's a fun balance with dark and light tones. In the beginning of the movie, it's pretty dark, but as the film progresses, Tony Stark's humor along just lightens the mood a bit, and it's just entertaining. The villain falls a bit flat, even though it's Jeff Bridges. I still like him, but there just wasn't enough there to make him as memorable as I would have liked. But his story and his relationship with Tony was pretty interesting. Number 4. Ooh, this was hard to put at number 4, but The Avengers is at number 4. And I tried not to make nostalgia justify putting The Avengers, because The Avengers was higher on the list. I was actually on the number 2 spot, but I moved it to number 4 because I spent some time thinking about this one. I mean, honestly, can you blame me? I mean, seeing all these characters that we've watched in these movies, these building blocks up to this final film, to see these characters all on screen together, with this witty dialogue, the bantering back and forth, the fight scenes, it was so cool to watch. The first time I saw this film was amazing. The action, the fights that they use, where they team up together to fight the Tesseract, and the way they fight is, it was so cool. And the humor in this film, oh my gosh, so funny. And it's still funny. It's the best part of the movie, in my opinion. Loki being the villain is great. He's, like I said, he's wonderful in his role. He's so entertaining to watch. You almost root for him, but I mean, you gotta root with the Avengers on this one. The beginning's a bit slow, and that's why it's up here, because it does have some pacing issues, but it's so full of nostalgia, and it's so much fun. Alright, the final 3. Honestly, these really don't have a ranking. You could mix these three in any way, and I would be happy. But this is my idea right now. It changes constantly, but this is where I'm at right now. Number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, to be honest, this is the biggest hurdle they've faced in this whole entire span of the MCU. I mean, when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, honestly, did you know a single character that they announced? Were you familiar at all with them? Because I wasn't. Being a fan of Marvel at the time, I had no idea who these people were. But I was still intrigued because Marvel's been hitting out of the park. And when this film came out, fantastic. Beautiful. Beautiful film. I mean, these characters are unheard of. These 5 characters, Star-Lord, Drax, Groot, Rocket, Gamora. They're unheard characters, but by the end of the film, they're all memorable and they're all unique. It's so funny. This movie is so funny, and I think part of it's because of Chris Pratt. I'm a huge Chris Pratt fan, and so I think he's funny in pretty much anything. This movie is so funny. I mean, it looks beautiful as well. You have Earth, and then you had Asgard, and now you have, the galaxies, and we've traveled to places we've never seen before in a Marvel film, and it feels like a Marvel film without associating itself with the others, until you learn about the Infinity Gems and you see Thanos. It builds on so much of the MCU we've never even heard of yet, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Avengers Infinity Wars, and to see how they even expand all of this even more. Yeah, my only complaint with this film, really my only complaint, is that Ronan the Accuser is kind of weak, and the ending fight, wasn't really a fight, and but other than that, the whole movie, even the ending, it's so good. This movie's just so good. Number 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I was blown away by how good this film was. Captain America: The First Avenger, I liked, but I didn't really like Captain America that one. The Avengers, I really didn't like Captain America that much because he was just too goody two-shoes, and you're just following all the rules, and you're like, stop, you're so annoying. But the Winter Soldier, they nailed it. They nailed it out of the park on this one. This is easily the best solo Marvel film they've ever done and may ever do. This is the best solo film they've ever done, and Cap is just so cool. One of my favorite movie theater moments is when he's attacking the ship in the beginning of the film, and he throws that shield, and you can feel the punches, you can feel how hard these people are getting hit, and the whole crowd's going, it was so cool. The storytelling in this, it was more of a spy film and not a superhero film, and it was really unique to watch this. And the character development in this film was so good on expanding on Cap, and expanding on Black Widow and Nick Fury, as well as introducing Falcon. The action was fun to watch. The close-hand combat stuff was really cool. The changes to the MCU were so well done, with Hydra still being around. We thought Hydra was gone after the first Captain America, but it turns out they've actually been working inside S.H.I.E.L.D. and are a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., a big part of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it was interesting that they could change a dynamic of the MCU without distracting the storytelling and to still keep the story focused. This film is just amazing. So much fun. Alright, number 1. Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I'm sure these, like I said before, you can switch these 3 around. So, Avengers Age of Ultron next week could be my number 3 and not my number 1. But I just had so much fun with this film, and this one I did use nostalgia a bit, because, like I said, to see all these characters on the screen is so entertaining, and it's so rewarding after what we've gone through. There's even more fun, more action, the bantering, the humor, it's all there, and just as great, or even better than the first one. The new characters work well. Quicksilver's great. Scarlet Witch is awesome, and the Vision is also really, really cool. The film is well paced too. My biggest complaint with the first Avengers, like I said, was the slow beginning of building these characters and bringing them together. But this one, the first scene, they're all together and they're all fighting, and they've been fighting. There's this history they've already had before, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Ultron being the villain was easily the second best Marvel villain of all time, right behind Loki. And he's James Spader knocked it out of the park with that one. We got more character development for Black Widow and the Hulk, but the biggest character development was from Hawkeye, which was so unexpected and so rewarding. It feels good to watch this film and to finally care about Hawkeye. Before, he was just a guy who shot arrows, and he just showed up in Thor for about 5 minutes, then he was in the Avengers, and now we actually know more about him, and I actually care about him now. The setup for future films works well for the most part. There's that little, 5 minutes of Thor taking a bath, taking a lightning bath that were a bit odd, but it's, like I said before in my review, which if you want to watch my review of Avengers Age of Ultron, link below in the description. But yeah, it's just this, it just got this little speed bump, the little Thor speed bump, but after that, flawless. Alright, well that concludes my list of the best and worst of the MCU, and by worst I mean not as good. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have your list, post your list in the comments below. I'd love to take a look at that. Or tweet at me at Moviegoer Lobby. Or like my Facebook page. All that's in the description below. And this concludes the Movie Monologue Talk Show, Episode 2, the show where I monologue about movies. The third episode of the Movie Monologue Show will be about M. Night films. I'm going to be talking about 8 of M. Night's films and ranking them from best to worst or worst to best. And talking a little bit about it, similar to this one. And yeah, so if you want to subscribe, there's a little subscribe thing that'll show up right there at the end. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Moviegoer Lobby. Bye.